Shalom Aleichem, friends, and welcome back to another week where we're trying to symbolize the Parsha and bring it in, internalize it in our day-to-day lives. The Baal Shem Tov explains this mushal, this metaphor, the meaning and relationship that every Yid has with the Eibishter. Every Yid has a personal relationship that Hashem is involved in his life more than he could ever imagine. In order to explain that in our mindsets, in our perspective, he explains this mushal, this story. There was once upon a king who really loved his son. He would do anything for his son. And the same was the other way around. His son really loved his father. One day he decided to test it and to realize the significance of what they have for each other. This king had a superpower, which was create realities through illusion. It's not real, it only seems to be real. The king decided to build a huge barrier around him. Not just barriers, but also all kinds of barbed wires and all kinds of rivers and things that would scare off any person to come close to him. So when his son is going to want to get close to him, he's going to have to go through all this challenge. So he's going to see that his son would have the power and courage to really believe, to have faith and believe in the love that they have for each other, or he's going to get stuck with the fear of all these barriers. The son came and the son saw all these barriers. He didn't think twice. All he did, he ran through it all. As soon as he realized that there's nothing happening, he found himself right next to his father, right next to the king himself. He turned around and he sees that there's nothing there. It's all an illusion. That's exactly how we look like after each and every struggle that we have in our lives. Everything that's happening, Hashem is creating it. Every struggle, every pain, everything that's happening in our life is meant for us to grow and realize how much significance and how much love we have in the relationship with Hashem. With this perspective, we can get to understand the Parsha a little bit. The Noam Le'Melech, the Heilige Rebbe Le'Melech from Lezhensk, explains that every person is supposed to get to a place of Dvaikas. Every person is supposed to get to a place where he loves Hashem dearly with all his life, with all his might. How does a person get to that level? It's a very holy level. Only tzaddikim get to that level. He says that a person is supposed to start with physicality. You want to experience the love of Hashem in the physical life, in the flesh, then you have to start with seeing Hashem in the flesh, seeing Hashem in your body, and then go up to the nefesh, and then go up to the neshama, which doesn't make any sense anymore. But you can only get to see Hashem in the neshama, even though it's above your comprehension, it's above your mind, it's above your feelings. You're only able to do that because you tapped in on Hashem in your nefesh, you tapped in Hashem in the guf. So in the little things that's happening in your life, you start seeing Hashem there. Automatically, when the day comes, slowly but surely, you'll get to a place where you start loving Hashem in everything that's happening in your life. Even in the things in a way of neshama, even in a place of getting to dvaikas, even in a place where tzaddikim only gets to. That's the way you start with physicality. Because you are a physical being and you only get to understand through physicality, you have to start with physicality as well. And he says the only way to do that is a person is always supposed to check in and make sure that he's tapped in this level, that he's always seeing Hashem in everything that he's doing. He's always finding Hashem, even in the things that seems to be so insignificant. It seems so irrelevant that Hashem would never be there. That's where he finds Hashem. That's the way to find Dvaikas Hashem. That's the way to live with Hashem in everything that you're doing. This is the level of a tzaddik. Sheva Yipol Tzaddik V'Kam. A tzaddik is not somebody that's always in a high level with Hashem. A tzaddik is somebody who creates his relationship with Hashem even in the lower parts. Sheva Yipol Tzaddik V'Kam. A tzaddik falls 7 times and he gets back up. He sees Hashem. For him, Hashem is as much involved in his life at the low points as much as the high points. It's all the same. Hashem is always there with him. It takes a lot of work. And in Emir Hashem, we're going to see in this week's Parsha how a person can internalize it. Before we jump in and trying to symbolize the Parsha and hear what Moshe Rabbeinu is talking to us in our day-to-day lives, the Rechaim HaKodesh brings something magnificent that's very important in our day-to-day lives. He says that since creation, for 2,000 years, the whole world is waiting to hear what's going to happen on Ma'amad Har Sinai. Are the Yidden going to say Nasa v'Nishma? Yay or nay? Finally, the moment comes, the moment of truth, and the Yidden answer Nasa v'Nishma. It's such a magnificent moment. We get to hear colors. We get to see noises. It's not possible to understand that. And part of what's happening is HaKadosh Baruch Hu is talking to us one-on-one. not possible to understand in our mindsets. This awesome and magnificent experience changes our whole being. Our natural instinct since that moment is to only love and fear Hashem. All you want every second of your life, to the core and teva of who you truly are, is to want to be connected to Hashem. It's only covered up with certain zahamas, to certain things that happened during history. And there's a reason for that. But the truth of who you are is to love and want to be connected to Hashem. Zehu. The rest is only an illusion. Similar to what we're saying from the Baal Shem Tov, that the king is just testing his son with certain illusions. Yes, it's hard, and at least most of the time it seems anything but an illusion. The pain is so real, the difficulties, the struggles, everything that we're going through is so uncomfortable and so real. It doesn't seem anything close to an illusion. So maybe in this week's Parsha Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll be able to break down a way how to see that it's only an illusion. At least get a little bit of comfort to see Hashem even in the most difficult places of our lives. So let's get started. Moshe Rabbeinu is starting the Parsha and he's saying, V'eschanu al Hashem, I asked Hashem, please let me go into Eretz Yisrael. It's necessary for me, it's necessary for the Yidden. And Hashem says no. That through something that he did, there's a chance that the Yidden would learn from that HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't love them all the time. There's certain times where the love between a Yid and Hashem Yisborach on a personal level or on a general level is not significant. It's not always the same, it depends on what you do. But that's not true. And because we should remember this all the time, and because we're going in with this mindset that there's a chance that HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't love us all the time, Moshe Rabbeinu cannot come into Eretz Yisrael. Because Moshe Rabbeinu is Netzach, and Netzach is something that stays forever. If the relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not Netzach, that Moshe Rabbeinu cannot be involved over there. So we have to go in Gulas, we have to go through what we're going through. So Moshe Rabbeinu is going us and he's telling us that I'm not going to be there, but you need to do the right thing. You need to stick upon the mitzvahs. You shouldn't add any mitzvahs more than necessary, because that's what happened when he kicked the stone, and that's why he couldn't get into Eretz Yisrael. And you also shouldn't do less. You need to do exactly what's necessary. You know, there's a good question here. We're only human. How can we be perfect? How can we be exactly how we're supposed to be? So for that, he's saying, you saw what you saw. You know what Hashem Yisborach wants from you. The only way how you're going to be able to connect with Hashem in Gulas and find Hashem in your most little moments that doesn't make any sense is by being dvaikus in Hashem. The whole day you want to be connected to Hashem, be in dvaikus Hashem. Wait a second, what does that even mean? What does dvaikus Hashem even mean? So he goes on and he explains that there's mitzvahs, and you should know that the only thing that you have in life is Dei Torah. This is your wisdom. You want to be successful, you want to be connected to your true self through the Torah. So now the question is, how does a person get into Dvaikas? Moshe Rabbeinu says two very important factors that's very important to remember each and every day in our lives. First of all, who is such a huge nation, such a magnificent nation, that God is always close to them, especially when they call his name? That's one. Second, and who is such a magnificent nation that has this Torah, Chikim Mishputim, things to do in our day-to-day lives, in every second of our lives? Tzadikim. We're automatically tzadikim, like exactly this Torah. The natural instinct of who we are is tzadikim. So let's break this down, these two ideas. These two ideas shows our relationship with Hashem Yisborach. First of all, if we always remember that we're always close to Hashem. Hashem is always here with us, like the Baal Shem Tov is saying, like the Rechaim HaKodesh brings. Our natural instinct, our teva of who we are, is naturally to want to be close to Hashem, to want to see Hashem in every day of our life, in every struggle that we're having, in the things that's impossible, according to our mind, to see Hashem over there. From that place, we are supposed to call out to Hashem. If you don't see it, then call out to Him. He's there and He's listening. He's going to be there and He's going to show up one way or another. So the point is to have faith and trust. Like we said last week, faith starts where the mind ends. faith in Hashem Yisborach that He is there with us, even if it makes zero sense. That's one. Number two, what is a tzaddik? Like we said earlier, a tzaddik is someone that falls and gets up. Sheva yipol tzaddik v'kam. 7 times a tzaddik falls, but he gets back up. For him, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is as close to him down when he's falling and it makes zero sense. He knows for a fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is just as close to him when he's high up there and when he feels HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the presence and almost in the flesh. That's a tzaddik. That's the perspective that a tzaddik always has. And therefore, a tzaddik is always connected to Hashem. Doesn't matter where he is or what he's doing, because he believes for a fact, without question, that Kadosh Baruch Hu is always there with him and is always listening to him. I heard from Rabbi Yoel Turgeman a very interesting thing. When you call somebody on their cell phone, you don't ask, is this Moshe? Are you sure it's Moshe? What's your mother's maiden name? You don't do that. You don't ask questions. You're not making sure 100% because you believe that it's Moshe on the other side of the line. Even though you're only talking to a phone, to a piece of metal, we're just so comfortable with it because we know that this is what it is. If a person has the capability to connect with Hashem Yisborach with so much faith and have so much sureness inside of him that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is listening to him right there and standing right here next to you, just like he's talking to the telephone, he knows for a fact that Moshe, who is on the other side of the continent, the other side of the world, is listening and hearing every word he's saying. Let's say he makes up to meet up with Moshe in a few hours or tomorrow or something like that. He's going to show up. He's not going to have a question. Maybe it wasn't Moshe. Maybe it was somebody else. He's not going to have doubts because he knows for a fact that it was his friend Moshe from the other side. If a person would trust in the process that when he talks to Hashem, Hashem is listening and the things will come, things will come, things will happen, and things will change. That's why a bracha of a tzaddik goes over HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mekayim, because he believes it and he lives with it and he trusts the process. So with this perspective, we get to live with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And of course, it's not a coincidence that this week we had Tisha B'Av, that this week Shabbos is called Shabbos Nachmi. It's all about finding Hashem in the struggle, being in the pain and still seeing Hashem dafke in the pain. We read Tisha B'Av Nechmitah, we read and your children and grandchildren, they go into Eretz Yisrael and they won't do the right things. They'll go off the derech. They'll do avodah zarah, they'll do things that are against the will of Hashem. Through all the pain and all the agony and all the bad things that you're going to do, even in Gulas. If you will search, you will find. If you go with all your heart, if you're willing to let go and trust that Hashem is there with you, you're willing to open up your heart and your soul and look for Hashem Yisborach. You just, Hashem, I want to be close to you right here, right now. In your pain, I will show up. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling us, even in the biggest struggles, I am there to show up. You just have to search with all your heart. You just have to let go of the questioning, of the fear, of the anxiety, and just trust in Hashem for one moment. Give it all your heart. Give it all you got. And ba'achas hayomim, dafke in today's generation where there's so much confusion, let go of that confusion for a little bit. Just trust that Hashem can show up right here and right now. Believe in that for just one moment. Hashem will show up if you mean it with all your heart. And this is the Haftorah as well. Nachmi, nachmi ami. Find a little bit of comfort. Find a little bit of compassion to yourself. Find a moment of vulnerability and let go and see Hashem in that moment. Just trust that Hashem has a plan. It's not easy. It's hard. But Hashem is there too as well. You just have to trust it. So how do we actually get to do this? The Haftorah finishes the last pusik. Si'i murai manaychem. Pick up your eyes and see to the heaven. Mi buru ayla. Who created all this? Find the gratefulness for God. See gratefulness in the tiny little things that you have, like the Noam Elamelech is saying. In the physical parts. Start seeing Hashem in the physical little things in your life. Who created all this? It's all for you. He's the same who took you out of Egypt. He's the one that is there for you even now in your personal Egypt. So in that way, you'll have amitz v'koyach, and you'll be able to go out of your personal gulas and ultimately bring Mashiach the redemption that we're all waiting for almost 2,000 years. L'chaim.